미국 여론조사기관 퓨 리서치 센터의 조사에 따르면 지난해 전 세계에서 일어난 종교 갈등이 6년 만에 최고조에 이른 것으로 드러났습니다. 국가별 종교의 자유가 보장돼야 한다는 목소리가 나오고 있습니다. 오늘의 월드뉴스입니다.
Were you surprised by that Pew report findings and why the increase in religious hostilities around the world?
I'm sorry to say that I was not surprised, and we at the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom are very, very concerned about deteriorating conditions for religious freedom in nations across the globe.
Well, what do you think we can do then to reverse this trend of increased religious hostilities?
We need to prioritize religious freedom in our foreign and diplomatic policy. That's not just a matter of moral thinking. That's actually a matter of law. The International Religious Freedom Act, which was passed and signed into law in 1998, requires that our government give priority to religious freedom. One thing that we need to do is to live up to the requirements of the statute when it comes to designating certain egregious offenders against religious liberty, places like Iran and China and so forth, designating them on an annual basis as countries of particular concern. When that happens, when the State Department does that, unless steps are taken for a waiver, certain sanctions follow. And we know that these sanctions from past experience can be useful. They can make a difference.
Let's talk a little bit about Syria. And the plight of that country's Christians is very important.
And we think it's very important that representatives of the religious minority groups are really represented there and have their voices heard. That's really critical. You cannot factor religious freedom out of the equation, and not just in Syria, by the way, where religious freedom is dishonored, as it has been in Syria, by both sides in that civil war. You get more civil strife, you get economic stagnation, you get violence, and you get extremism, including terrorism that threatens our own people and our own interests. So the United States has a very concrete stake in ensuring that religious freedom is respected and elevated in countries around the world where it's denied, especially places like Syria. Syria is such a sad, terrible case. It's another case of Christians, among others, being among the persecuted. Many Christians in Iraq who had to flee Iraq because of religious persecution growing out of the civil strife there fled to Syria, and now they're having to flee from Syria. Now, this is really a situation that's out of control, and we have to prioritize it in our own foreign and domestic policy. We, every single one of us, Republican, Democrat, Liberal, Conservative, is concerned about the plight of Pastor Abedini and of hundreds and indeed thousands of people who are like Pastor Abedini, suffering for their faith, being discriminated against, sometimes being imprisoned, even tortured and killed for their faith. This is the cradle of Christianity. The very earliest Christians, Jewish Christians, were in the Middle East. The faith spread to the Gentile world from the Middle East, beginning in the Middle East. The term Christian was first applied to the followers of Jesus in Antioch. These are ancient communities.
You mentioned Saeed Abedini. You know, Secretary of State Kerry suggested he didn't want linkage in the nuclear talks with Iran on that issue. Do you think it should be linked? Should there be a discussion there?
I think it's a bad mistake, a terrible diplomatic mistake, one that will result in no progress being made if we sweep religious freedom aside and imagine that that can be sacrificed in order to make progress on combating nuclear arms or terrorism or anything else. It's a package. If you want progress in any of these domains, you're going to have to put religious freedom at the top of the list and make some progress on that one.